Would you like to know how I make six figures as a yoga teacher without teaching in studio? What if I shared with you the 5 steps to success to get you there way faster than it took me? I'd love to do exactly that. Join me for a free, yes, you heard that right, a free masterclass Sunday, August 11th from 12 to 2 Pacific Standard Time. We'll talk about the biggest limiting belief holding you hostage and keeping you stuck, the 5 often forgotten pieces of an irresistible offer, the number 1 reason why students aren't showing up, how to reduce the risk of inconsistent earnings, the best kept secret to skyrocket your success. I'm giving away so much value, it's insane. This is for you if you're a yoga teacher who is ready to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit. If you want to create impactful and profitable offers outside the studio. If you want to go from frustrated to flourishing, head to the link in the show notes to sign up. This masterclass is 100% free. But wait, I'd like to sweeten the deal by giving my software survival guide for yogis to everyone who shows up live. If you feel like fear of tech is holding you back from chasing your dream and expanding your reach beyond the studio, this PDF will banish the overwhelm and help you get started. I'm telling you the 5 steps to success and giving you my software survival guide for free. All you have to do is show up. If you can't make it in real time, no worries. I'll send out the replay. There's nothing to lose. Head to the link in the show notes to sign up now. See you there. Hey yogis, MaKenzie Fly here, mom, yogipreneur, teacher trainer, retreat leader, and your guide to master your yoga teaching. This podcast is your weekly dose of actionable wisdom and candid chats with industry experts. Learn to connect deeper, weave yogic magic, and lead by example. Full disclosure, I'm still mastering it too, but together we'll skyrocket your impact and income. Hit subscribe and let's grow, one episode at a time. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to MYYT, where you are learning to level up your yoga teaching one masterful class at a time. I'm so excited to come to you with another solo episode. Last week, I shared with you the 5 mistakes that stalled my yoga teaching career, and today, I really want to talk to you about the $17,000 that I have spent in this year alone in 2024 on continuing education. I really feel not like I want to be like, look at me, look how much money I've spent. I'm not bragging that I've spent that much money, but I want to give you a realistic snapshot and a really clear picture on what it actually takes to continue learning some of these things that we don't know as yoga teachers. So let's say that you're a yoga teacher who really wants to break free from the limitations of teaching in studio. You want to be a full-time yoga teacher who's making a substantial income from your yoga teaching. It's enough to satisfy all of your needs. You can live a really comfortable life. If that is you, you probably have realized that you can't do that just teaching yoga classes in studio. So you have this bright idea. Hey, I am going to start teaching a workshop. You sit down and you're like, what needs to happen for me to do a workshop? And you realize that you need to actually kind of create the content that is in that workshop. And that is the exact moment that you are no longer just a yoga teacher. You shift into becoming a course or offer creator. And so you're like, okay, I need to pick a topic of discussion. What's the theme of this workshop? That requires you to all of a sudden get really clear on who this would be for. You need to spend time and really outline the flow of this workshop. What is the series of events and how do they progress? How do I notch them in so that it really makes sense? Once you kind of have all that done, you're like, okay, what's the catchy name for this workshop that's going to attract the type of person that I want to come? Then you need to think about the price points and like, how do I set the proper price so that it's affordable for people, but I'm also able to pay the bills if I need to rent a space? How many people do I need to have to break even? How many people do I need to have to profit? So all of these other skills, all of a sudden, that are outside your yoga teaching toolkit, you need to know how to do. And that's just one little avenue of creating a workshop. You go even further and now you start to think, okay, now that I've kind of outlined this offer, now I need to create all of the promotional material. So usually on flyers or posts, there's a picture. So, oh my God, all of a sudden I feel like I'm supposed to be a model. I need these beautiful pictures of myself doing really awesome things to look like, give myself some street credit and look really cool and look like I know what I'm doing. You have all that pressure of needing to be a model. Then you're like, okay, now that I have these beautiful pictures, I need to make some cool flyers. Am I supposed to be a graphic designer too? I'm trying to pick these fonts and these colors, and I'm getting so overwhelmed with all the options. Let's say that you kind of muscled your way through and figured out the graphic design after getting the pictures. And now I have this little promotional piece of material, whether it's a flyer or a post. Now I need to write this captivating caption that is scroll stopping, attention grabbing for the people that I want to come. I don't even know how to do that. How do I write in a way that captures people's attention, that tells them a story, that makes them feel like I'm the right person to invest their time, energy, and effort in? So all of a sudden you feel like you need to be a copywriter for your IG posts, your Facebook posts, your email lists. That's a whole different set of skills that yoga teacher training really doesn't provide you with. And that's just the promotional aspect of everything. And then you need to be able to publish all of this so that other people really know what you're doing. All of a sudden, you feel like you need promoter and marketing skills. And that, for the most part, makes yoga teachers feel really, really icky. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Am I right? Are you sitting there just like shaking your head like, yes, I have felt all of that tension and friction and frustration. Like all of a sudden, teaching a workshop sounded like a cute little idea that I would just whip and throw together. And now I'm knee deep in this project and I don't know how to do anything. And it can be really discouraging. And I just want to say that so that you don't feel like you're crazy. You don't feel like you're wrong. Also encourage you that you really weren't given all of the tools to succeed, to flourish, and to thrive as a yoga teacher outside the studio. Now you're moving from the role of being a yoga teacher to more of a yogipreneur, being an entrepreneur or a business owner and thinking like one as well as acting like one. No longer this yoga teacher so far out of your comfort zone. Basically, it feels like you're this event coordinator and that there's a lot that you need to learn. This is where I found myself. I totally felt like YTT was great. It just didn't prepare me. Each one of these skills that we've mentioned, like event coordination, graphic design, marketer, promoter, offer creator, all of these, you could basically go to college for and spend so much money and 4+ years getting an education just on how to do that one thing. And so, yeah, you feel like you're a failure sometimes as a yogipreneur trying to do just this workshop to one person at a time, heal and change the world. It's just impossible, kind of what you're expecting of yourself. And so that's the first thing that we just need to banish is this unrealistic expectation, this added level of pressure that we apply to ourselves, thinking that we're supposed to be good at all these things without having taken any further education or invested in other coaches who can really kind of show us how to do all of these things. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that cut yourself some slack. It's a lot of stuff. It's not impossible. Becoming a flourishing yogipreneur, that means someone who solely relies on yoga teaching as their main source of income. It means that you have to invest your time, your energy, and money in learning some of these other skills if you really, really want to succeed. So that's where I kind of found myself at the very beginning of this year. At 2024, I was like, I am ready to bet on myself. I'm really ready to go all in on this. I don't want to waste any more time. I don't really have any extra time. Now being a mom, I need to stop playing so small and trading my time for money. And I need to create other offers that'll bring in more significant cash injections, give me that freedom over my schedule, the flexibility to do what I want, the flexibility mainly to stay at home. There was so much more to learn. While it was scary to make some of these big investments, totaling $17,000 this year alone, and we're only halfway through the year. And again, I'm telling you all of this not to brag, firstly. And then I also don't want you to feel like you have to spend $17,000 because you don't. You can learn a lot, but that $17,000 to me was the best money spent. And I wish I would have spent it so much sooner because, like I mentioned in last week's episode of the 5 mistakes that really stalled my yoga teaching career, I felt like I was avoiding investing in really great continuing education on some of these topics because I thought I could figure it out. And I did, I tried to create all of these things, but without a lot of guidance, without this clear roadmap of an effective route to get to where I was going, and inevitably ran into some obstacles and into some problems. And I felt like I didn't have anyone to turn to ask my questions to help me figure it out. And that's really frustrating when you feel alone in that process. And so it just really slowed me down. And I know that I could have gotten where I am to a much more comfortable place, to much more financial freedom and success a lot faster if I just would have spent the money and stopped kind of wasting time. 2024, the beginning of this year, I was like, okay, I am ready. I'm going to spend some money and I'm really basically going to take myself to online business school. And that's what it all kind of totaled to, right? I mean, $17,000 is not just a little bit of money, that's like a proper education. So I wanted to share with you what I actually spent my money on, what I got from that, and how it has helped me evolve and grow. And interestingly, the more I spent, the more I started to make. So that's really one of the rules of reciprocity and abundance and manifestation, is that the second I decided that I'm ready and that I'm also willing to put some more skin in the game, the more I was rewarded, which has been so fun and so interesting. I also wanted to record this episode because a lot of my yoga teacher friends have recently kind of said to me, MaKenzie, your stuff is looking so good. It's also cohesive. It really feeds into one another. Like there's a clear kind of funnel. You're just looking like you have everything figured out. And I cannot tell you how much that means to me. It's actually music to my ears, but don't be fooled. It has been not easy. Okay. It was not natural. And like I said, I spent a lot of time kind of flailing and flopping around trying to figure it out myself before spending this money and really learning from people who know what they're doing. But that's the difference, right? Is when you're finally working with someone who can kind of give you at least the bird's eye picture of like, okay, this is this, and this is how it's done. And this is a tried and true method, a proven path to success. Oh my God. It's so much better. All right. Here is the breakdown. At the very end of last year, technically speaking, this is the end of 2023. And I believe it was actually before baby Finn was born. And he was born November 11th of 2023. He's my 11/11 baby. If that is not the first sign of good luck coming, I don't know what is. And since his birth, I have looked at the clock pretty much every day at 11/11, but also every variation of angel number, 222, 333, 444. It's wild. And I'm taking it, of course, as a really good sign. And I feel so divinely protected while I take these big, scary moves and spend money that makes me feel initially scared, because investing in yourself is terrifying. It is really scary. You have all of this insecurity and doubt come up to the surface. Like, what if I spend all this money and it doesn't work for me? You have doubt, not just in yourself, but in the provider. You have doubt in the actual course content. You have doubt in yourself for finishing it. So all of this stuff, of course, rose to the surface as my finger is like hovering over some of these investments. But the very first investment that I did was Jenna Kutcher. She's an incredible online entrepreneur who has amassed a huge following and a really big success. But she has a course called the Podcast Lab, and that was about $600. And why I invested in that is because at the end of last year, I knew that I wanted to launch what is now this podcast. So within that course, I learned what in the world hosting platform is, how to really edit each one of the episodes, how to plan your episodes so that the content is actually cohesive and clear and good, how to reach out to other people and invite them to be guests on the podcast, how to pitch yourself. All of the behind the scenes stuff of creating a podcast, that is what that course equipped me with. And as you can see, since this podcast is no longer an idea, but an actual thing, to me, it was well worth the investment. That was the first thing I spent, and it was around $600. At the very beginning of the year, literally January 1st, I attended a free masterclass from the Women Behind the $1 Million Year course. And this course was roughly, I believe it was just under $2,000. And what I gleaned from this course, I'm still kind of working through all of the modules, but within this, I really needed to take a look at my money story and my money identity and work through a lot of limiting beliefs about how much money I feel worthy of making, and changing that money story and working through how I feel about making money, making a lot of money, especially in the field that I'm in, the field that you're in of being a yoga teacher. Like, again, I mentioned in the 5 mistakes that stalled my yoga teaching episode last week, I really do feel good now about being okay with accepting money doing this career of yoga teaching, because I know that my intentions are pure. I know that I care so much about the people who take my classes, the people who invest in my courses that I create, the mentorships that I hold the space for, the YTTs. I don't take that lightly. And I know you don't either, because you keep coming back every single week to listen to these episodes. And so that shows me and proves to me that you are in this for the long run, that you want to keep developing and growing. And when you are that type of teacher, committed to staying very pure on the path in terms of your heart, it's the best business to be in. It's the best job. It's the best thing to be paid for when you are in the business of helping somebody, truly helping somebody and creating an incredible transformation. Specifically in the $1 Million Year course, they had an excellent spreadsheet. Getting my hands on this spreadsheet has changed the game for me. And a big learning and takeaway from that course is developing a money ritual. Every Monday, my husband, Colin, and I now sit down and go through an hour, sometimes 2 hours, just to really look at our money together and see exactly how we're spending, what we're spending on. And we track every expense in and out, so expenses and income, so that we can know where money is going. And I think for a long time, I was trying to rely on platforms like Mint, QuickBooks. I had an app one time called Albert, where yes, you can kind of link your bank and it'll do some of these things automatically. But because you're not manually entering in this money, you're getting a little bit of a snapshot, but you're not intimately looking at it and keeping track manually, so you know it at a much deeper level. And so I know that sounds kind of like a simple thing, but I didn't really have a lot of money education growing up. And the more I talk about this, the more I hear other people being like, I so relate, and maybe you will too. But money has always kind of felt like this thing that we have to be good at to function as a human being on this planet. But it also wasn't really something that we were given a lot of education on. It's also a taboo topic. People don't really want to talk about it. And so it feels like this weird catch-22 of needing to be good at it, but never really learned about it. And because you don't really know how to manage it well, you can only then receive what you know how to take care of. So I found myself just learning so much in this course about how to track finances, how to not feel so terrified of looking at my bank account, of sitting down and being in relationship with my money and changing just how I feel about money in general. So it has been a game changer for me. And this spreadsheet was well worth the investment alone. And it gives my husband and I just an excuse to do a little date. And we even sweeten the deal by rewarding ourselves by staying committed. And we go get some Starbucks afterwards. And it feels like a really fun event. And we try to make the best out of doing something kind of boring and monotonous. The next course that I invested in this year was called Abundant and Ambitious. And this course was about $3,000. I got it for $3,000 even though it's regularly priced at $4,000 because I jumped in as an early bird and purchased kind of right away while this coach announced that doors were open. This oh my gosh, this course I learned so much from. This coach and this mentor was absolutely incredible. And I'm so glad that I decided to invest in this specific person. And why I bring this up is that it's really important that you observe the person that you're about to spend thousands of dollars on. And really see that they are embodying what they're selling and that they are a living example and in-person proof of the message that they are talking about. And I truly feel like this coach was. She's so heart-centered. She cares about every single one of the people that choose her. And I found that invaluable to be the receiver of the type of experience that later I want to be the giver of. It's so important. I cannot stress that enough, is that if you really want to start creating these different offers, this like up-leveled version of you hosting retreats or hosting yoga teacher trainings or hosting online courses and masterminds, then you have to invest in being in those spaces because you will not have any idea how to hold that space if you haven't first been in that space. And that was a big mistake that I was making for a really long time, is that I was like trying to create all of this stuff without having any experience to back it up. Right? It's that analogy that we talked about last week of it's really hard. It'd be like trying to be a yoga teacher without ever having been a yoga student. In Abundant and Ambitious, I just quickly kind of want to walk you through what all I learned. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is crazy. But the first thing that we really talked about is really just building the foundations of business. And for me personally, it was kind of a continuation of the $1 Million Year course content in the sense of unpacking a ton of limiting beliefs. That's the thing that's crazy and that nobody tells you about entrepreneurship, is how much it reveals all of the things that you're self-conscious about. It shows you what you are stressed about, and it kind of heightens any insecurities and really illuminates all of those parts of you that you'd rather kind of keep in the dark. Entrepreneurship, baby, man, it's going to bring it to the surface and it's going to make you look at all of it. So we spent a lot of time doing that, unpacking limiting beliefs and uncovering what are your skills and what are your strong suits. Because until you're really deeply connected with those, it's hard to feel worthy enough to have a business. And worthiness comes up a lot when it comes to building a business. And if you don't have that at the foundation, it's like that parable from the Bible, like build your house on the rock instead of the sand. You need to have an unshakable sense of yourself. What is your definition of success? What are you really good at? What makes you stand out? That's building your foundation on a rock. And if you don't take that time to get clear on that, it's like building on the sand. And of course, what's the difference, right? One is going to stand the test of time. One is going to handle weather, and the other is going to come crumbling and crashing down at the first sign of rain or the first storm. The next thing we talked about was finding your niche and your brand. As a yogi, and I can feel you, inwardly cringing with me, is that it feels so icky to put a package on yourself as a service provider, even if you are a yoga teacher. But really what this means, and this is what I learned through this container, is that you're just trying to get crystal clear on who you are and who you would like to serve, who you would like to help. Because if you're not clear on that, you've got this very fuzzy value proposition, and your messaging is really fuzzy too. So the people that you're trying to attract and the people that you probably could really help are having a much harder time finding you because you're not clear about who you are and how you can help. And this is so important when it comes to making or breaking your success, and the people that you're trying to get to come to your things, if they can find you, because you're not clear on your niche, you're not clear on your brand, and you're not putting yourself in this package, this pretty package that allures people, that entices people, because people are busy. You know what I mean? Like, people are living their life. It's not their fault, and they should be living their life. But you have to be, and I tell myself this often and daily, it's like, you can't be mad about people out there living their life. And it's not their job to know what you're doing. It's your job to tell them what you're doing, and tell them in a way that it actually relates to them, their life, and their problems. That's what makes it interesting, is learning how to speak their language and talk in a way that makes them think, oh my gosh, yes, she gets me. She's in my head. And there's a lot to be learned in that topic. And so that's what we kind of uncovered there as far as niche and brand. Then we really dove into conscious offer creation. And this is kind of what I was talking about in the beginning with outlining your workshop. There is skill, there's a science behind thinking about your client or your student's journey and getting really clear on the transformation that you're aiming to create and how that person is going to go from A to B. Because that's the difference between an effective workshop, an effective YTT, whatever it may be that you're trying to create. The difference is that organization and that progression. And so if you don't know how to consciously create an offer that guarantees a specific result, it's probably not going to be effective. After that, we dived into content creation. And this is where we spent a ton of time looking at what are our content pillars. Now knowing who I am, what is it that I talk about often? And this is really important to know, because as someone who is showing up online and using these free platforms like Instagram and Facebook, other social media places, you don't want to feel like you're like, oh God, another day, another post that I'm supposed to make. And it feels like you're starting from ground zero every time. That's similar to why I created Inspired Flow Monthly, the subscription, because whatever systems we can put into place where it doesn't feel like we are reinventing the wheel every time, that we are building off of something else, that is going to save us so much energy and so much time. So that was so helpful for me. We also took a lot of time to find what is our writing voice, what's our tone, what's our style, and ultimately just our creative process when it comes to putting things out there on social media, which for yoga teachers is so helpful. Then there was even a module on launching and growing a successful podcast, which while I was in this mastermind, Abundant and Ambitious, I had already launched the podcast, but it really helped me continue to think, okay, what are innovative ways that I can streamline my processes, that I can make this more manageable for me to stay consistent, to stay committed to showing up for you each and every week, and really building some hopefully you like me as a host, some like you know about me and my personal life and my beliefs and my values, and that you start to trust me as a person that is in the same shoes as you, trying to walk the same walk and figure out this puzzle of being a yogipreneur. And so that training was super, super helpful for me. And I really felt like it elevated how I show up here. Then there was a whole section on heart-centered coaching, which the whole container was it was more vague. The niche wasn't just for yoga teachers, which I will say that was kind of one of the disadvantages. And that's something that on the flip side, I really wanted to then create is all of this sort of business mindset, this business savvy specifically for yoga teachers, because I'm a yoga teacher and I want to help other yoga teachers. But this container was more broad and more for everybody who's kind of wanting to build online businesses. So in our variation or version of this, it would be heart-centered, like serving your students. How do you really go above and beyond in creating incredible experiences for your students through your offers? What this also included and what I appreciated was learning how to really set clear expectations and being able to say, this is what I allow, this is what I don't allow, these are my boundaries. So that as much as you are very articulate in your verbal cues inside your classroom, you're also able to be very articulate in your verbal cues outside the classroom, because you need both to maintain this sense of spiritual hygiene. And students don't mean to, sometimes yoga students, they experience such transformation in your classes that they want to become really good friends with you. And while that may be beautiful and maybe you have the energetic bandwidth for that, sometimes you can't do that really well for everybody. And it can be really draining for some types of personalities. And I found this to be really helpful in that regard of learning how to do heart-centered coaching, but not so much that it's at your expense and makes it to where you can't be in this for the long run, and that it helps you maintain a sense of longevity and sustainability. Then we got into soulful selling. This was a big shift for me personally, because again, in the idea and topic and under the umbrella of money and money mindset and shifting that money identity, I had a lot of work to do in terms of shifting how I feel about selling my services, selling my products, and feeling like that's number one, even allowed. And number two, that it's not an inconvenience to people, like feeling really apologetic about having something to offer. I grew so much in this regard of learning to be comfortable with charging for my services. And instead of really feeling like it's a intrusion for somebody, that I'm just inviting them of how they can go deeper. And this was huge for me because, of course, if you want to be a yogapreneur, if you want to be a successful yoga teacher who makes their living off of yoga teaching, you have to sell. You have to have sales, because if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. And if you don't have a business, then you can't have a life. So we need to completely shift our mindset around selling and learn how to do it in a way that feels really authentic, that feels really, really good. And I learned so much. Then we got into money management, which again, back to the $1 million year, so much in terms of just how business owners upkeep their books, how you plan in terms of like what you're launching and when you're launching, so that you can set yourself up to not have these periods and pockets of huge cash injections and then nothing, which that's really the gamble of being an entrepreneur, right? When you don't have this boss that has a schedule of when they pay you, you have to create that. And so you run the risk of having periods of real famine and real feast. And that can be not so awesome on your nervous system. And so learning how to really set yourself up to not have that happen, oh, it was so, so helpful. Then we dove into the huge topic of launching and what launching means for people out there who's like, what do you even mean by launching? Launching is that moment of when you are opening the doors to people to come into the offer that you've created, or join the workshop, join the retreat, join the YTT, join the group coaching program, whatever it may be that you spent all that time in your offer creation mode. When you launch it, this is when you're like showing it to the world and saying, I have something, it's amazing, you should come and do it. And this is how long you have to join. There is so much. I'm laughing because I had such an unrealistic idea of what this meant. I honestly had no idea. I I had no idea all that goes into preparing for a launch and setting yourself up to have enough material to be loud enough so that people are even aware that you're launching something. I just would think that I was so bad at something because I was basically posting like twice and being like, well, I did it. Why is it not a packed house? Why are we not sold out? Like, I don't understand. So there's so much strategy and so much skill behind just launching that is going to make a huge difference of how successful this launch is. And of course, you want it to be successful and you want it to bring in money because you spent a lot of time creating something that's going to provide an incredible transformation for somebody out there who really needs it. But if you don't have a strong launch strategy, if you don't have everything, set up and in place and automated, it just won't land. It won't find the people who need it most. And of course it won't convert. And when it doesn't convert, the person doesn't get the product, they don't get the transformation, they don't get the help, and you also don't get the money. And so it's just a lose-lose situation. I learned so much in regards to launching, and it has changed everything for me. And then we talked about feminine energy in business, which was so helpful. And in kind of our realm and world of yoga teaching, there is a balance of this yin and the yang. Imagine even the yin yang symbol of the black on one side with the tiny speck of white, and the white on the other side with the tiny speck of black. And that those halves make this perfect whole when they come together. Business has both. Well, people in general, as you know, have both energies, but business has both. There's this time of needing that masculine energy of putting all of these structures in place, setting up these systems, setting up these automations. But then there's also the feminine of being softer and yielding and learning when to act and when to surrender. That was a huge thing for me to sit with and really understand. And I'm so grateful for just this conversation, because what happens, and this shows up in our yoga practice too, we are naturally more inclined for one direction. My teacher used to say, we're either pushers and we're go, 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 do, 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 make it happen. I'm going to force this into being, or we're coasters. And I'm just going to allow, wait and have an open palm energy. Both are beautiful, but just like the gunas in Ayurveda, there's a time and a place for each energy. And it takes discernment, and it takes, in my case, and probably your case too, it takes education to know when to push a little bit and when to pull back. And so this was invaluable for me. Then the last training within Abundant and Ambitious was all on scaling, hiring, and delegating, as well as systematizing. So a little more in that masculine land. How do we set ourselves up for being able to consistently produce something without burning out? This is a huge topic that needs to be talked about, that you need to take time either reading about, learning from a coach about, because if you say this is your life's work, you want to be able to do this for life, right? That means that you need to do it in a way that isn't soul sucking. And we're entrepreneurs, for crying out loud. We get to create this beautiful life that is in alignment with our definition of success, that we get to design our days. So why are we sometimes designing it in a way that goes against our strengths? Back to the strong suit in the very beginning. So it's just learning, how do I kind of optimize my natural strengths and set these systems up so that it's not as hard and I'm able to do this for longer, and that I'm not in so much of a rush. Beautiful, beautiful trainings inside this mastermind. I'm not per se trying to sell this mastermind. I mean, I will sing her praises till, what's the phrase? Till the cats come home, till the dogs come. However that phrase goes, you get what I'm trying to say. It was incredible, and I really do encourage it. But more so, what I'm trying to tell you is that I have soaked up all of this wisdom, and I am excited to share it for not as much as other people are charging for it, because I'm just kind of shifting and transitioning into more of this yoga teacher mentor, but also like a yoga teacher who's helping other yoga teachers build their businesses. Okay, if that was abundant and ambitious, the next course that I invested in was called Launch Gorgeous. And this course, woo, this is epic. It's like an 8-week situation. Julie Chennel, I think is her name, and Kathy Olson. They are the brains and the beauty behind Funnel Gorgeous, which if you haven't heard me talk about Funnel Gorgeous before, it has completely changed my yoga teaching career and really elevated my business and how professional I look, because it's basically all the softwares in one. You have a website, you can do customer relations, you can do course creations, it's your email marketing, it's automations, it's all the things under one house. But basically, they have this course that they call Launch Gorgeous, and each one of the launches are different, what they're helping you launch. So last year, in 2023, I'd actually spent $3,500, so $3,500 on Challenge Gorgeous. And this is where I learned how to run a 5-day challenge. Some of you might have been in this. It was called Mat to Mat. And so I learned how to create the, info page that tells you what all it's about. It walks you through the funnel and the pages of like, okay, I signed up for it. Now it takes me to this page. Then after this page, I'm given this page. You're invited to put in your cell phone number to get some text reminders. You're invited to add the event to your calendar. Like, so robust in the sense of like, there's so much tech and behind the scenes stuff that go into not just getting somebody to opt into what you're doing, but actually getting them to show up in real time and in person is like a whole other ballgame. So that course was $3,500 just for my mat to mat challenge. But this year, because I had made that initial investment in 2023, I was able to do Launch Gorgeous subscription, which this is where then I launched the Inspired Flow monthly subscription. I was able to participate in that version for only $500 because they have a alumni pricing. So while it was expensive that very first time, then, $500 is obviously a lot more affordable, a lot cheaper. And I was able to go through the whole process again. And this is where I really, really zeroed in and dialed in on just how many things go into offer creation, just how many things go into pre-launch, actual launching, following up with people, having all the stuff in place to have people in like members who are actually subscribed to your stuff. So shout out to all my Inspired Flow monthly subscribers. I love you so much. And it brings me so much joy to feel like this offer is actually helpful, that I've actually created something that helps people, that saves you time, and that helps you feel really prepared and excited to teach your classes. So I love you so much, Inspired Flow monthly-ers. But that's how I learned to create that, was through this course of Launch Gorgeous subscription mode, and then in 2023 challenge mode. So that right there is like $4,000, but only $500 of it was for this year. Then I'm wondering if my husband is like, please don't tell people how much you are spending. But this is the big ticket price point that I just made. And it was terrifying, truly terrifying to say yes to this, because I decided to drop $11,000 on what's called top tier. This is a high level business mentorship and 4-month mastermind with already established entrepreneurs. And I decided to do this just after I was basically given the ultimatum to leave one of my jobs. So my husband was like, are you serious? You really want to spend $11,000 right now when you are leaving like a steady, stable income? And you are like saying, it just doesn't make any sense. But to me, I was actually like, you know what? This is the time that I actually have to do it. This is the best time to do it, because I will continue to learn how to really do this, and not just do this like kind of, but do it well and receive the support that you have to have when you are figuring things out, because it is so much harder. I don't want to say this to like scare you or discourage you, but it is hard. It is hard to be your own boss. It is challenging to be an entrepreneur and have all of the qualities that an entrepreneur that's required for an entrepreneur, like innovation, like vision, like grit, like tenacity, like adaptability. I'm like getting chills. I'm having a moment, I guess. just being proud of myself, sticking with it when it's not easy. And it hasn't been easy. And I want to be honest with you that it hasn't been easy. But why it hasn't been easy is because I didn't have support early on. And I was trying to do it all alone. And I was facing so many difficulties. And that frustration is often, the biggest whisper in our ear of like, this would be so much easier if you would just give up. And yeah, it's tempting to listen to that voice of like, you're right, little negative Jiminy Cricket. It would be easier if I would just give up. But I have also on the other side of that fear, this beautiful vision of what life could look like if I just stuck with it. And for me personally, again, to reiterate, I don't have time anymore. I have Finn, my son. I have a baby that I want to be home with. I want to keep building a family. And I want to not feel stuck teaching studio classes where it's anywhere between $30 an hour to $60 an hour. You can't make a beautiful, flourishing, you can't build a flourishing life off of that. So anyway, I spent $11,000 right after basically being asked to leave or being threatened that I was going to be fired. And so top tier is a 6-month high level business coaching and mastermind. But at the end, you get a weekend immersion or a weekend retreat in Florida where my coach lives. So getting to go and meet her and all the women that I've spent the last 6 months in, I have that coming up in December. So that's kind of built into the price is an actual weekend retreat that's all inclusive. Another huge part of that is even more trainings. I'm not going to tell you the exact details of the training because it might be kind of beyond where some people are, but really digging into the details of how to become uncopyable, how to storytell in a way that is so captivating, that is so attractive to the type of person that I want to hang out with and spend my time with and help. And so the retreat on top of all of those trainings, all of that information, and getting in the room. Remember last week when I said that it's so important to get in the same room as people who are trying to do the same thing that you're doing? I'm surrounded by all of these already established entrepreneurs, and they're talking about things that were not even in my peripherals, like things that I wouldn't have even thought to have asked. These women are talking about. And you have to pay to get into those rooms, right? You have to pay for the fast pass. And so I forked out, I paid, right? But I'm just saying it's invaluable. Like it's actually priceless for some of these women to drop so casually, so nonchalantly, like, oh, this is what I did when I was in this experience and this, was really helpful, or I reached out to this person. And it feels like sharing. I was, thinking about my offer and was like, it feels like we're sharing our coveted little black book of contacts. To have somebody be like, oh, this is your problem, reach out to this person, and you get to bypass all of that stress of like, not only am I in this problem, but I don't even know who to ask to help me get out of this problem. That is so helpful, is to just share contacts, share resources, share tips, hear what they're dealing with and how they're overcoming it. It is everything. It's changing the entire game for me. And to really make sure that you're understanding the value of it, that yes, it's expensive, mostly to receive what I am trying to give is now easier. And I feel much more confident in expressing, hey, I've created this type of container, this type of experience after having experienced it. After spending all of this money, I now really trust myself to deliver it because I've received it. I feel so much more confident in saying this is how much it costs because I know I know what it feels like to receive the value and to be no longer in that problem and to have the solution. I know that it's so well worth it. And so when it goes back to worthiness, what we were talking about in the beginning, that's usually the thing that holds people back in their business, is feeling timid, feeling like a imposter, feeling unworthy of all of this stuff. And so that was huge for me. Now knowing, hey, no, I've paid to be in this room. I've spent a lot of money to learn some of these skills. And I know that they are so valuable. I know that they've helped me, and I'm seeing this investment return. that is probably why, that I've started to really find my footing, to really find my groove, and to start to receive some of this financial abundance and starting to see some of that money come back in because I was willing to spend it. That's how the $17,000 has happened. Basically, I've spent a small fortune in doing my own, DIY version of online university for business and for coaching. Again, I'm really, truly not trying to brag, but I just want to illuminate just how much more we need to learn as yoga teachers. Now, that is if and only if you have a desire to be a yogipreneur. If you want to be the type of yoga teacher who considers themselves as a business owner and who starts to act like one and make your living off of your yoga teaching. If you don't want to put that much pressure on your yoga teaching, that's also fine. Remember what Courtney Pipkin said in What Everybody's Thinking But Nobody's Saying? That's a beautiful episode. If you haven't checked that episode out, it's just a couple episodes before this one. She shared with us the 5 business models of yoga teaching, depending on kind of how much you really want to make from your yoga teaching, depending on what's your variation of success, that there's different paths that we can take. And this is only one of them. That's the more serious one, who wants yoga teaching to be their whole life, that wants to make more of a sustainable and substantial income from teaching. So all of this really leads me to recognizing that there's this huge gap. I started thinking, okay, if you, MaKenzie, are tripping over this massive gap, there's probably other yoga teachers who are out there tripping on the same things that I did. I want to save you from some of that frustration and save you from feeling defeated and deflated, because I know how much it sucks. Okay. I was there. So if that is you, if you're listening, I want to encourage you and tell you that it's possible to go from frustrated to flourishing as a full-time yoga teacher. I'm proof of that. I'm now making 6 figures through my yoga teaching, and I do not teach in studio anymore. I mean, I teach 2 classes on studio at Vibe here in Las Vegas. Shout out to my Vibe family and the students who practice with me there. But that's really the only place that I teach in studio. So I really want to share with you, now that I shared kind of the 5 mistakes that stalled my yoga teaching success and how I invested $17,000 and how that tripled my income, I want to share with you the 5 steps to success. And this is my way of thinking, okay, if I were to start all over in my yogipreneur journey, what would I do differently? What would those 5 steps be that could expedite the process? Because trust me, it took me way too long. And you can go a lot faster than I did. You can save yourself a lot of that frustration. If you are resonating with all of this, if you are vibing with all of this and like, yes, MaKenzie, this is exactly how I feel, I know that you can help me move much faster through all of this. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to mark your calendars for Sunday, August 11th from 12 to 2 Pacific Standard Time. That's Sunday, August 11th from 12 to 2. I'm hosting a free masterclass called How I Make 6 Figures as a Yoga Teacher Without Teaching in Studio. I'm going to be sharing my 5 steps to success. So if I were to start all over, what would I do that would save me time and get me there faster? I want to give you not only hope that it's possible, but I want to give you help and the fast track to get there. Okay, so all the information as well as the link to reserve your spot is in the show notes. So pause this right now, check it out, make sure you sign up. It's going to be incredible. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I just wanted to close with a quote that I heard this morning. It was by a person named Susie Ashworth, and it goes like this. You play at the level you think you are capable of achieving and worthy of receiving. You play at the level you think you are capable of achieving and worthy of receiving. If you, my friends, are ready to start believing in yourself more, I'm here for you. I can help you, and I hope to see you on August 11th. Send this episode to a couple of your friends, take a screenshot, share it up on your stories, and don't forget to tag me. Until next Wednesday, namaste blessed. Thanks for listening. If this is your first time, peruse our feed to see if there's something else that will serve you. We're so grateful that you're here and invite you to join our inner circle by subscribing to our newsletter. If this episode resonated with you, help us spread the word by sending it to a friend who needs to hear this message. Likes, follows, sends, shares, and reviews help us to continue delivering high-quality content to you for free each and every week. Don't forget to tag @MasterYourYogaTeaching so we can reshare. I am a certified yogi. However, this podcast is intended for information and entertainment only. If you are interested in mentorship or coaching with me, check out the website linked in the show notes to get more information. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on the podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of MaKenzie or CLW Studios. Learn more about MaKenzie, her guests, and CLW Studios by following the links in the show notes. Keep shining, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of Master Your Yoga Teaching. Namaste blessed.